Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of OHKO. So today, we need to look at the very first ever Corviknight card that we are getting in the Pokemon trading card game. And this is one big metal bird, which is extremely difficult to actually get off the field. Now, our translation here comes from the lovely David Hockman over at limitlesstcg.com/translations, which is not a particularly new statement at this stage. And if we start off with the basics, it's got 170 HP. 170 HP is gigantic. It's huge. Well, it's higher than average at least. It's higher than the majority of Stage 2, so that's quite nice. We have a retreat cost of 2, which is actually kind of annoying, but we do have that new balloon card that will give you free retreat, so, it's not as bad as it used to be, having a retreat cost of 2. Now, even though you're a metal Pokemon, you have the weakness and resistance of a flying Pokemon here. That means a weakness to lightning, which should be a bad weakness, and actually probably is, because as I showed you... I either showed you earlier today or I will show you later today, depending on the order in which these get uploaded, but Morpeko V is one of the best decks in the format right now. You don't really want to be weak to Morpeko. Means that they should be just short of a KO. In fact, they will get a KO. Though the resistance to fighting is quite nice. If Morpeko keeps being good, you'll probably see more fighting decks, and you'll have resistance to those, so that's quite nice. And being a metal Pokemon is great. It means that you're hitting weakness against stuff like Gardevoir and Sylveon, but far more importantly, it means you've got stuff like Metal Patch, or Metal Sorcerer as it's actually called, which is just Aqua Patch for metal Pokemon, lets you accelerate energy more easily. It means you've got Metal Frying Pan to take away your weakness and mean you take 30 less from attacks. That's quite good. Very useful. And Lucario and Melmetal to mean that you take 30 less from attacks. Or Metal Goggles so that you take 30 less from attacks. Or Metal Core Barrier so you take 70 less from attacks. It's a good time to tank as a metal Pokemon, and frankly that's what you're going to want to be doing. Now, the first attack here is the least exciting of them. 1 colourless energy, 50 damage. And I will say that, why couldn't this be a little bit more? Like just a tiny little bit more and this would be amazing. 50 damage is alright, it means you'll get Ditto Prism Star, but the problem is, you're a Stage 2 Pokemon. So, it's going to be difficult to actually get this rolling fast enough to take out something like a Ditto, because generally they're going to have been able to evolve. Maybe you go first, and they don't evolve because they can't because it's turn 1. Then you hit a rare candy on your second turn, but generally it's not going to happen. But I'm expecting Frostmoth to be really good. It's the one that's got Rain Dance on a Stage 1. Stage 1 Pokemon lets you attach as many water energy from your hand as you like to your bench Pokemon during your turn. And what's really nice about this is that it's got 90 HP and a weakness to metal. Now, it's not good for the Frostmoth player, but it is good for you. If we had just 10 more HP, we'd be getting stuff like Inkay, which is upsetting. Now, to be fair, we do have that Galarian Berserker card, and that means you can do an extra 20 damage per Berserker, but I don't know how many are going to play that. It is an option, incidentally, and it will up your damage, but it's not exactly amazing, put it that way. Not when combined with a Stage 2. Like, if you're using a basic Pokemon and you just need a few Stage 1s to hit key numbers, yeah. But with a Stage 2 trying to add in all the Stage 1s, it's much more awkward. Not saying Berserker's bad, I think it's quite a good card, but I am saying it's awkward to use as a Stage 2 helper. So that's not brilliant. But the good news is we got a second attack, and the second attack arguably is brilliant. 1 metal, 2 colourless energy, 100 damage, and 30. You may discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. If you do, during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon receives 100 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon's attacks. Oh. Yeah, that's really good. You see, this is the point at which Corviknight just turned into a near un-KOable tank. Because you got 170 HP, which in and of itself is quite high. But then you take 100 less from attack, so now you've got an effective HP of 270. And then you whack a metal frying pan on there, and now you've essentially got 300 HP. But you've probably used Lucario and Melmetal's GX attack while you're waiting to evolve up, so now you've effectively got 330 HP, and no weakness, and even if your opponent actually gets a KO, you give up one prize. Oh. Yeah, that's pretty gosh darn phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. You see, Metal Double Colorless 130 damage isn't great in and of itself. But if you're giving yourself an effective HP of 330 with no weakness, and you're still only giving up one prize, now all of a sudden 130 damage is fine, because you're probably not one-hit KOing a lot. We'll run the numbers properly in a minute. But you've easily got the time to just two-hit KO at your leisure. So you don't really care. And similarly, the energy cost isn't amazing, but you're going to have so much more time to get that energy on because you're just not getting KO'd. Now, of course, there is every possibility that your opponent is going to be able to gust around. Now, you can avoid Great Catcher by not playing any GXs, but there's nothing to stop your opponent playing Custom Catcher. But that's not dealing with the problem. Sure, your opponent can play Custom Catcher and try and drag a couple Pokemon off the bench, but sooner or later they're going to run out of gusting options, and you're still going to be reducing the damage done to you by 100. You're still going to be in a great position to try and avoid your opponent actually getting the KO. Now, it is obviously worth noting, I said avoid playing GXs. You need to remember that it might not be that easy. Because I said about Lucario and Melmetal, that is a GX, and I think a lot of the time you're probably going to want to play Lucario and Melmetal, so yeah, you've been warned. But even then, it's not going to always be that easy for your opponent to just gust around. And that's kind of what we're relying on here. Now, in terms of the energy, you've got that Metal Saucer card I mentioned earlier, so that's going to help very, very much, just for making sure you can get the energy on. Being an evolution Pokemon, you can use triple acceleration energy, and essentially you attach it, it gets discarded at the end of the turn, so you might as well discard it using the attack, and then it's kind of irrelevant anyway. So that will give you 4 attacks where you're not really losing much energy. And then you've got your Metal Saucer, and then you build in the extra time you're going to have because you're not getting KO'd, and now all of a sudden, yeah, we're looking at a really tanky Pokemon. And we've got the time, and the energy cost isn't worrying us. As for the damage, 130 will get the majority of non-GXs. Most of the non-GXs we see seeing play at the moment, it's easy. I mean, Jirachi's absolutely everywhere, but even stuff like Naganadel, which pops up in a whole bunch of decks, you will be getting. Pretty much everything else you're two-hit KOing, but you don't really care because you've got time. Now, what's really annoying is that 2 times 130 is 260. So that means that stuff like Mewtwo and Mew and a lot of the other tag teams are actually going to be 10 damage short. But just play like a Galarian Zigzagoon or 1/1/1 Berserker line, etc. Because that's the thing about Berserker. You can always just play a 1/1 line to try and hit the numbers you need to hit. So I think you'll probably be alright. I'm a fan of this Pokemon. I think that this is the kind of thing that a lot of players are going to avoid and ignore, and then 1 or 2 people are going to come and just wreck tournaments with it. It has got survivability unlike almost any other Pokemon. To put this in context, right, 330 HP effectively The only Pokemon that are there are Stonejourner VMAX, who's got 330, and Snorlax VMAX 10 higher at 340, but they've both got a weakness and give up 3 prizes. You can essentially have no weakness and give up 1 prize. This is one of the hardest to KO Pokemon in the game if you play it right. I'm going to give it 4 Wussies. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to give it 4 Wussies. I know that seems high. This is a card I completely overlooked in my first run through when I was making a list of all the good cards. And the more I look at it, the more I think there is a lot of potential here for a really fun deck. But I'd like to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.